It's July 3rd, and originally we were supposed to leave at 7:50 this evening. But like a lot of summer travel days, things didn't go exactly according to schedule. A delay pushed our departure back by about an hour, giving me a little more time than expected to sit at the gate and think about everything that's happened over the past few weeks. A month ago, I graduated from the University of Colorado. For a few years, I had the opportunity to play football under Coach Prime. Like a lot of college players, I dreamed about taking that next step and making it to the NFL. But sometimes, life has a different flight plan. Growing up in Fort Morgan, Colorado, I always had another dream. Ever since I was 3 years old, I can remember standing near the fields watching air tractors race across the horizon. There was just something about airplanes that never left me. The sound of an engine starting up, the sight of an aircraft climbing into the sky, the idea of seeing the world from above. As graduation approached, I knew it was time to choose my next chapter. The NFL wasn't going to be my path. The United States Air Force would be. In just a few months, I'll begin training to become a fighter pilot, chasing a dream that's been with me for as long as I can remember. But tonight isn't about the future. Tonight is about friendship. My best friend Josh is stationed in San Antonio as an Air Force military training instructor. We've known each other for years, and tomorrow we'll be celebrating Independence Day together in Texas. So as the sun sets over Denver International Airport and the ground crews finish preparing our Boeing 737-700 for departure, I'm taking a moment to enjoy the journey. Sometimes the time between chapters is just as important as the chapters themselves. And tonight, that journey begins at Gate C35.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. At this time, we'd like your full attention as we review the safety features of this aircraft. Even if you're a frequent flyer, please take a moment to follow along, as aircraft safety equipment and procedures may vary. Federal regulations require all passengers to comply with crew instructions, posted placards, and illuminated signs throughout the flight. To fasten your seatbelt, insert the metal fitting into the buckle and pull the loose end of the strap until the belt fits low and snug across your lap. To release it, simply lift the top portion of the buckle. Whenever you're seated, we recommend keeping your seatbelt securely fastened, even when the seatbelt sign is off, as unexpected turbulence can occur at any time. All carry-on items should now be securely stowed in an overhead bin or completely underneath the seat in front of you. Aisles, exits, and pathways must remain clear throughout the flight. Please take a moment to ensure your seat back is upright and your tray table is stowed. Portable electronic devices may be used in accordance with crew instructions. Larger devices should be secured during taxi, takeoff, landing, and whenever directed by the crew. If a device falls into a seat mechanism, please notify a flight attendant rather than attempting to retrieve it yourself. This aircraft is equipped with multiple emergency exits. Please take a moment now to locate the exit nearest you. Keep in mind that the closest exit may be behind you. Exit signs and floor-level lighting will help guide you to an exit in the event of an emergency evacuation. If you are seated in an exit row, you may be called upon to assist the crew. Please review the responsibilities outlined on the information card and notify a flight attendant if you are unable or unwilling to perform those duties. A safety information card is located nearby. Please review it carefully, as it contains important information regarding this aircraft's safety features, emergency equipment locations, and evacuation procedures. In the unlikely event of a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will automatically drop from the panel above your seat. If this occurs, remain seated and pull a mask firmly toward you to start the flow of oxygen. Place the mask over your nose and mouth, secure it with the elastic band, and breathe normally. Although the bag may not inflate, oxygen is still flowing. Be sure to secure your own mask before assisting children or others. If your flight is equipped with life vests, they are located under or near your seat. Crew members will provide specific instructions if their use becomes necessary. To use a life vest, remove it from its container and place it over your head. Wrap the straps around your waist, fasten the buckle, and tighten securely. Do not inflate the vest while inside the aircraft. Once outside, pull the red inflation tabs or manually inflate using the tubes provided. A light attached to the vest will activate automatically upon contact with water. Should an emergency landing become necessary, crew members will provide instructions on the appropriate brace position. Listen carefully and follow all directions immediately. In the event of an evacuation, leave all carry-on baggage behind. High-heeled shoes should be removed if directed by the crew. Proceed quickly to the nearest usable exit and follow crew instructions. Once outside the aircraft, move well away from the aircraft and remain together until further assistance arrives. Smoking, vaping, and the use of electronic cigarettes are prohibited on board at all times, including in lavatories. Federal law prohibits tampering with, disabling, or destroying smoke detectors installed throughout the aircraft. And as a reminder before departure, please ensure your seatbelt is securely fastened. Your seat back is upright. Your tray table is stowed. Carry-on items are properly secured. Your attention remains on the safety of everyone aboard. Thank you for your attention. On behalf of the captain and the entire crew, we appreciate you flying with us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight.
As we're making our way across the airfield, I can't help but think about how different my life looks today compared to just a few years ago. Back then, I thought success had a pretty simple definition. Work hard, play football, make it to the NFL. That was the plan. And when you're young, it's easy to believe that if one door closes, everything else closes with it. But one thing Coach Prime taught me was that your circumstances don't get to define your future. You do. I remember hearing him talk about confidence all the time. Not the kind of confidence that comes from being the loudest person in the room, the kind that comes from knowing who you are, knowing what you're capable of, and believing that even when life throws something unexpected your way, you'll find a way through it. At first, I thought those were just words, the kind of things coaches say to motivate players. But over time, I realized he actually lived that mindset every day. No obstacle was too big. No setback was permanent. No challenge was a reason to quit. That's something I've carried with me long after the final whistle. Because the truth is, life rarely goes according to plan. Tonight is a small example of that. We were delayed. The schedule changed. Things happened outside of our control. But we're still moving forward. And in a lot of ways, that's how life works too. When I realized football wasn't going to take me where I originally hoped, I had a choice. I could focus on what didn't happen, or I could focus on what was still possible. That's when I started thinking seriously about the Air Force. The more I looked into it, the more I realized it wasn't a backup plan at all. It was another dream waiting for its chance. And because of what football taught me, because of what Coach Prime taught me, I wasn't afraid of starting over. I wasn't afraid of the challenge. If anything, I welcomed it. Because once you've learned how to face adversity head on, uncertainty becomes a lot less intimidating. Looking out the window now, watching the lights of Denver slide past in the evening darkness, I feel grateful for every obstacle I've faced. The victories taught me confidence. The setbacks taught me resilience. And together, they showed me something I'll carry for the rest of my life. That most limits aren't real. Most obstacles aren't permanent. And we're capable of a lot more than we think. The Air Force will challenge me. Flight training will challenge me. There will be days when things get difficult. But I know one thing for sure. Whatever's waiting for me on the other side of this flight, I'm ready for it. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped worrying about whether the path would be easy and started believing I could handle whatever was on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Johnson speaking, along with First Officer Martinez. We're just about ready to make our way onto the runway here in Denver. The local time is 8:09 p.m., and we're currently number 2 in line for departure, so it shouldn't be much longer before we're headed south towards San Antonio. Weather conditions this evening are pretty cooperative. We've got cloudy skies overhead, the temperature of 77 degrees, and the ride out of Denver is expected to be fairly smooth. We may encounter a few light bumps as we climb through the cloud layer, but nothing unusual for this part of the country. At this time, please make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened, your tray tables and seat backs are in their full upright and locked positions, and all carry-on items are properly stowed. If you're still working on that text message that absolutely couldn't wait until we landed, now would be a good time to hit send. We're expecting a flight time of approximately 2 hours this evening. Once we get airborne and settled in, our flight attendants will begin their service. As always, we'd like to thank you for choosing Southwest Airlines. We know you have a lot of options when it comes to travel, and we're glad you've decided to spend part of your evening with us. We'll do our best to make the trip comfortable, safe, and hopefully a little more enjoyable than sitting in Denver traffic. Looks like the aircraft ahead of us is beginning its takeoff roll, which means we'll be following shortly. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride to San Antonio. We'll have you there before you know it. Thanks again for flying Southwest, and welcome aboard Flight 2073.
flight attendants will be coming through the cabin shortly with our beverage and snack service. Today we'll be offering a variety of complimentary beverages, including soft drinks, coffee, tea, juice, and water. Please have a look at the menu card available on your mobile device through our onboard portal for additional beverage options and information. If you need to use the lavatory during the flight, please be sure to use caution while moving about the cabin and watch your step. For everyone's comfort, we ask that you return to your seat as soon as you're finished. As a reminder, federal regulations prohibit smoking, including the use of electronic cigarettes, vaping devices, and smokeless tobacco products anywhere on board the aircraft. Tampering with, disabling, or destroying a smoke detector is prohibited by federal law. You are welcome to continue using approved portable electronic devices in airplane mode throughout the flight. If you need assistance connecting to our onboard Wi-Fi or entertainment services, please don't hesitate to ask one of our flight attendants. For those of you connecting to another Southwest flight today, please check the Southwest app or speak with one of our customer service representatives upon arrival for the most current gate and connection information. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. If there's anything we can do to make your trip more comfortable, please let us know. Thank you again for flying Southwest Airlines, and we'll be back with updates as we get closer to our destination. We ask that you remain seated for the remainder of the flight unless absolutely necessary, as we may encounter unexpected turbulence during our descent. Please make sure your seat back is in the full upright position and your tray table is stowed and locked. If you are seated in a row equipped with a footrest or leg rest, please ensure it is fully stowed at this time. All carry-on items, including purses, backpacks, and electronic devices not currently in use, must be properly secured underneath the seat in front of you or in an overhead bin. The aisles, exit rows, and areas around your feet must remain completely clear for landing. If you are using a larger electronic device, such as a laptop, it must now be powered down and stowed. Smaller handheld devices may continue to be used in airplane mode until arrival. Please take a moment to look around your seating area and collect any personal belongings you may have brought on board. Check the seat back pocket, under your seat, and in the overhead compartment for items such as phones, tablets, charging cables, headphones, books, and jackets. For our customers seated in emergency exit rows, we remind you that all carry-on items must be stowed for landing. We appreciate your attention and willingness to assist in the unlikely event of an emergency. Once we arrive at the gate and the captain turns off the fasten seatbelt sign, please use caution when opening overhead bins, as items may have shifted during flight. For those with connecting flights, Southwest ground personnel will be available upon arrival to assist with gate information. You may also check the Southwest Airlines mobile app for the most current connection and baggage information. On behalf of our captain and the entire Southwest Airlines crew, we'd like to thank you for flying with us today. We know you have a choice when you travel, and we're grateful you chose Southwest. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the remainder of our flight as we make our way into San Antonio. We'll be on the ground shortly.
I guess I must have fallen asleep somewhere over New Mexico. The last thing I remember was watching the lights of Colorado disappear behind the wing. Now the cabin lights are on, flight attendants are making their final announcements, and somewhere below us is San Antonio. It's funny how a short flight can give you so much time to think. Or maybe in my case, time to stop thinking for a little while. I don't think I've slowed down much over the last few years. Football has a way of keeping your life moving at full speed. Practice, meetings, classes, workouts, always preparing for the next challenge. Tonight was different. For a few hours, there was nowhere I needed to be and nothing I needed to do. Just sit back, listen to the engines, and let my mind wander. And honestly, I think I needed that. As we're getting closer to landing, I keep coming back to one thought. I'm grateful. Grateful for where I've been. Grateful for the people who've helped shape me. And grateful for the lessons I've learned along the way. When I first arrived at Colorado, I thought success meant reaching one destination, one goal, one outcome. But Coach Prime helped me see things differently. He taught us that confidence isn't about knowing exactly how everything will turn out. It's about believing you'll be all right no matter how it turns out. That's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Because the truth is, nobody's journey follows a straight line. Plans change, doors close, new opportunities appear when you least expect them. What matters is having the courage to keep moving forward, to trust yourself, to trust the work you've put in, and to trust that every challenge is preparing you for something greater. A few years ago, the uncertainty of what's ahead might have scared me. Now, it excites me. The Air Force is waiting. Flight training is waiting. A whole new chapter is waiting. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not worried about whether I'm ready. I know I am. Not because I have all the answers, but because life has already shown me that I can overcome more than I ever thought possible. Looking out the window now, I can see the lights of Texas stretching across the horizon. Somewhere down there is my best friend Josh. Tomorrow we'll celebrate the 4th of July. We'll laugh, catch up, and probably spend a few hours talking about where life is taking us next. But tonight, as this 737 carries us toward the runway, I'm just thankful for the journey. Thankful for Colorado. Thankful for football. Thankful for Coach Prime. Thankful for the obstacles that force me to grow. And thankful for whatever comes next. The seatbelt sign is on now. The wing is gently banking toward the city lights. And in just a few minutes, this flight will come to an end. But for me, it feels like something else is just beginning.
and gentlemen, welcome to San Antonio. The local time is now 10:58 p.m., and we've just arrived at San Antonio International Airport. On behalf of your captain and the entire Southwest Airlines crew, we'd like to thank you for flying with us this evening. For those of you ending your travels here in San Antonio, the weather outside is currently cloudy with a warm temperature of 79 degrees. We hope you've enjoyed your flight with us and that you have a wonderful stay in the Alamo City. At this time, please remain seated with your seatbelts securely fastened and keep the aisle clear until the captain has turned off the fasten seatbelt sign. For everyone's safety, please use caution when opening the overhead bins, as items may have shifted during landing and taxi. If San Antonio is not your final destination and you're connecting to another Southwest flight, please check the Southwest mobile app, airport monitors, or speak with one of our customer service agents inside the terminal for the latest gate and departure information. Before leaving the aircraft, please take a moment to look around your seat area and in the seat back pockets for any personal belongings, including cell phones, tablets, chargers, and other valuables. Any items left on board may be difficult to recover once the aircraft continues to its next destination. Again, we know you have a choice when you travel, and we're grateful you've chosen Southwest Airlines. It has truly been our pleasure serving you tonight. Welcome to San Antonio. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and as we like to say at Southwest Airlines, thank you for flying Southwest, and we'll see you again soon.